Welcome to Pera's Playbook. This is your host, Alex Pera. Let's open up our playbook and see who our guest is. Please enjoy. Welcome to episode 124 of Pera's Playbook. Today we're joined by Jeremy Butler, former wide receiver, went to UT Martin, and he was in the NFL from 2014 to 2017. He was with the Ravens, Bucks, Jets, Chargers, Bills. He had 33 receptions for 374 yards. So, Jeremy, appreciate you hopping on. How's it going?
Man, I'm doing good. Everything is going great, man. I appreciate you for inviting me.
Yeah, I love that. I see the jersey framed in the background. I love it.
Trying to
Do
do a
you
little
uh
bit, man.
do you have any others framed throughout your house or just that one?
So I have this Chargers one, and I have I think you might can see the corner of it, that
Oh,
Raven
yep, I can
over
see that
there.
tip
Yeah.
there. Yeah,
So those are only two I
yeah,
got from you.
right. I got you. So before we dive into your career,
Yeah.
kind of like a little opinion piece here. You played at a smaller college, and things have changed since you played.
Yeah.
NIL, transfer portal, everything's kind of exploded here in the last few years. And some people have different opinions on whether it's good or bad, especially for some of the smaller schools. I mean, obviously they don't have the money to offer these kids the same NIL deals that say Ohio State or Alabama or Oregon can offer.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on like kind of the effect that it has on a smaller school like UT Martin?
It's gonna make it very, I mean, it's already tough, but it's gonna make it a little tougher. It's gonna be very tough to get seen and get recognized and put yourself in position. But I think there's always pros and cons to everything. I think it's an opportunity for those guys to, really lock in. If your goal is to be seen to get on that stage, it's the opportunity to move up and put yourself in position, with the portal and, earning some income while in college. I think that opportunity is there. So you're gonna really see who's really serious about their craft to an extent. But it's also gonna make it harder for, those small school guys and, markets to be seen and get recognition.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, if you ball out at UT Martin, maybe you transfer to a
Yeah.
big time program. So I mean that could be, and then I guess you see a little bit too, right? Maybe somebody who's at Ohio State not playing as much, they transfer to a smaller school so they can play more. So I mean you've got that side of it too.
Yeah.
But I mean everybody's got different thoughts on it. Some guys you talk to like some guys who played college football maybe back in the 80s. And some of those guys are very against they're not a fan of the portal or NIL or
Yeah,
any of that
that's
stuff.
tough crowd.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm not totally against it or totally for it. I think it's good, but they just got to do it the right way. That's what I mean. Like,
Yeah, man. And I think like my honest opinion on it is no different than the NFL and the pro level. If you still have the same problem of, guys just aren't prepared how to handle money. They don't
yeah,
have understanding of how to like put things in place, get the right help and professional, advice as far as how to manage the opportunity. The opportunity is great, but if pro guys don't have the information, knowledge, and resources to really manage their wealth and to not, blow it all and, do crazy stuff, what do you think younger kids are going to do with that money in college? So I just think it's a great opportunity, but I'm all about like what's the education piece to it? Like how we
right.
prepare these kids to, make sure the money lasts.
Yeah. Every team needs like their own financial advisor now, or
Yeah. Need their
that's
own
got to be the
financial
next step.
team.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they need a whole crew of people at each university to like just have meetings with guys, talk about their money. How are you going to manage it? I mean, you sign a $3 million NIL deal when you're 17 years old, 18 years old, or whatever. Like, how are you going to deal with that? What are you going to do with it? You going to save some of that money? You can invest it? You know, don't just go out and buy a fancy car and a whole bunch of crap right away and blow it all, right? Like,
Yeah, man. Yeah. And like I said, they're trying to get the professional guys, the rookies and the 5-year vets. They're trying to teach those guys those principles.
yeah,
And ain't quite got it yet. So I don't know how they can
no,
get the younger guys to really master that.
no. There's
So
there's
it's a challenge,
definitely
man.
there's definitely challenges all up and down this transfer portal NIL landscape, but I feel like in the coming years they'll figure it out more. They'll make changes and it'll become more solidified. It's still I think new enough where that's where the problems are. Nobody really
Yeah.
it's still in its infancy stages, I guess you could say.
Yeah. 100%.
So looping back to before kind of all this, back in your career, like I said, you went to UT Martin. Leading up to the draft, did you have any idea? Like, were you in contact with teams? Did you think like, hey, maybe I've got a shot to get drafted in the late rounds, or I mean, where were you kind of at pre-draft?
So pre-draft, my agent was like informing me, and I was in contact with teams and organizations, and they were in touch with my agent. So we were kind of in that sixth round to undrafted window. And of course, like as a player, you're thinking, okay, sixth round for sure. You don't even hear the other part. But the reality is, like, I think there's probably more activity going on as far as on the phones, behind the scenes, in that sixth, seventh round window than there is like the first and second round windows. Because like first and second round, you kind of like we all know who these guys like. We know what this team needs, and you're the best fit. So you kind of really know, it's kind of like laid out. But
Yeah,
sixth, seventh round and undrafted is like it's a lot of behind the scenes of trying to get these guys, trying to fill the back end of the roster. Special team guys, camp invites. Signing bonuses. I was lucky to receive a signing bonus to come to Baltimore. So you kind of like all of these teams are calling. They call you in the sixth, seventh round. And you're thinking it's a draft pick, but it's like, no, no, no. Hey, we want to offer you this amount of money. We don't have enough picks. We're going to exit out, and we want to take you in the undrafted. You know what I mean? So it's different ways of how they do it, but it's a lot of activity going on in that sixth, seventh, and that undrafted window because it's the difference between some of those smaller signing bonuses to just camp invites. So it's a lot of activity going on.
yeah. Did you have many teams that you were serious about thinking, signing with, or like were you pretty set on the Ravens? Were there other teams that you thought about going with instead of the Ravens?
So for me, I had a few teams, and I actually in the spring, it's kind of similar to college. So I wasn't highly recruited out of college. Like I didn't take a bunch of visits and none of that stuff. So that experience was brand new. But in the NFL, as I was getting ready for my pro day in the spring, like I took a visit to Green Bay. Like Baltimore, they came out to practice. I met some of the representatives, but like some of the scouts, but I had no idea they were gonna take me. Like that call came out of nowhere last minute, but it just made sense. My agent, we looked at the numbers, the roster, the history of the receivers that go in undrafted, and we made an informed decision. But to me, I was going Green Bay all the way. They took me out to a pre-draft visit, enjoyed the city. It was freezing cold, but I'm thinking Aaron Rodgers, I'm thinking Jordy Nelson. I'm like, oh man, it's the legacy, Brett Favre, Lambeau Leap. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be a Green Bay Packer. And out of nowhere, man, Baltimore gave that call and was like, hey, we're gonna give you more than they're giving you to sign on, which I didn't even know how that worked. But I'm like, okay, so I get paid to come in. Okay. They must want me. So I took Baltimore. It was
Yeah,
between Green Bay and Baltimore for me.
that's crazy. So you were thinking one thing, you end up going
Yeah.
complete opposite. You get a curveball kind of thrown in there, and
Yeah.
you end up taking it. So you make it to Baltimore, and you got hurt pretty early in your rookie season, which is obviously not what anybody wants, right? You finally make it to the NFL, and now you're hurt, and you got that to deal with. So what was your injury, and kind of how'd you have to overcome that as a young rookie?
So that's when I had to really understand what it means to be a pro. And because it's like one of the first times I've had to sit out for like an extended period of time or like a real big injury. And so for me, it was like, okay, I got to come in here. I can't practice. I can't play football. Like I barely can work out, but I got to come in, watch film, take care of my body, treatment, get in the cold tub, do stim and treatment at home, stretch. I'm like, man, I got to really be a professional and still study the playbook. I don't want to come in next year because I was on injured reserve, so I was done for the year. But I didn't want to come in next year like behind the ball. I'm like, man, I want to come in next year like, okay, it's like this guy's been playing. So I had to learn how to be a professional and do all the other things that gave me an opportunity to really like have a jump start, hit the ground running where I left off at my next year. So it was interesting. I kind of hated it, but I understood it. And then I got paid, so it's kind of hard to kind of be too down about it. I was
Yeah,
still getting an NFL salary for not playing. So I'm like, okay, that kind of makes it a little sweet.
yeah. So I think one thing kind of people don't really talk about is a playbook. How much more advanced or complicated is the NFL playbook compared to college and then like the high school playbook? I mean, how much more, is there to it in that mastering that playbook?
It is. it's a full-time job, man. You got to study that playbook in the morning. You got to study it at night. And it's so many variations of it. It's so many variations of formations. Like you have to really understand what the defense is trying to do because like in college and high school, you kind of you can call certain plays where it's like my guy's better than your guy. But in the NFL, it's like we got to scheme things because both of these guys are just as talented. All of these guys are great athletes. So we have to scheme and understand what they're trying to do and do something for like counter it. So you got to understand so many different concepts of an offense. Like it's deep, and you got to understand tendencies. What do they like to do on third down? That's going to tell you how you should maybe change the route. Like so, it's a lot, man. I would say as a receiver in the NFL, you probably have to be just as intelligent as a college quarterback, I would say.
Yeah.
You have to really understand what like the pass protection, the hots, the blitzes, the disguise coverages. It's wild, man. It's a whole different ball game.
And nobody sees that, right? Like the fans, that's all behind the scenes. All the fans see is guys catching passes on Sunday. Oh, that looks awesome. Boy, that guy's got a great life. He's making bank and all he does is, run around and catch footballs. But like they don't see all that behind the scenes work and how much you got to like grind to be on the team, how much extra there is other than just the actual playing the games and going to practice.
Yeah, man, it's a lot of preparation. And the difference is, like, I know I always tell some of the kids I mentor, I always tell them, like, and literally, we can play football all day. Like, sometimes we'll even have two games a day, or we'll play, we're playing a game every weekend, practicing every day. In the pros, we practice 6 days for one game. You know what I mean? So like you're practicing and game planning one whole week of just locking in for one game. And then you have an even bigger offseason. It's so much preparation before you even get to the field that like you said, I don't think fans even have an idea that my job started last Monday. You're just not seeing the results and the, proof of the, work on Sunday. So it's
Right.
a real thorough process.
Right. It's definitely not as easy as it looks sitting on your couch on Sunday eating a bag of chips.
Everybody can coach from that position.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. But it's the same thing. Like the fans know more than the refs always, right? Like you gotta,
Yeah.
it's crazy. I've recently gotten into reffing local football and basketball, and it's crazy. Like the player's right in front of me. I can see his foot's on the line. He's taking a three. I put my hand down for a two, and there's a guy in the crowd hollering at me. It's a three. It's a three. No, his foot is on the line. He's right in front of me. I can see it better than you can. It's
Man, that's
crazy.
crazy. And that, man, that makes me think of like, going back to your question earlier, you mentioned about like how just the NIL and like how it's new, how that changes the game for athletes and the sports space. But I think even with you mix in NIL, you mix in the transfer portal, you mix in all the sports betting, and then you mix in like where it's like, man, now we have more access to like these athletes than ever. So you mix in all of that, man. Like, how many kids like can be influenced to go to a school or to hit the portal based on how the fans are treating them on social media?
Right. Oh
Based
yeah.
on how fans are treating them and how that fans are talking about them at the games. So like, man, I don't have to deal with this. I'm gonna go over here. You know what I mean?
It's
So it's
brutal
it's
now.
it's crazy now. It's a lot to deal with.
There's so many people that had to delete social. I think it was last year, one of the Iowa women's basketball players, she had to delete her social media because the fans were after her. The refs called a foul. People didn't agree with it and ended up, I think it was, might have been when they were playing LSU. I can't remember the exact game, but she had to delete her social media because she was getting so much hate. And I mean, that's just not cool. No
Um,
athlete wants that. No, nobody wants to deal with that. And if you're sitting on your couch, sitting there, you're typing all that up. I mean, what are you doing with your life? I mean, come on, let's.
it's sad, man. It's sad to literally sit there and just hate from a computer screen. Like it's sad, man.
But you're totally right. Like, I mean, the sports betting aspect, people have so much money invested that they're taking it out on these athletes. When I mean, they're humans. Everybody makes mistakes. Everyone's gonna have a bad game. Anyone who's
Yeah.
ever played sports knows that. I mean, you're gonna have bad weeks, and it just happens.
Yeah. Especially when the people opposite of you are literally trained professionals trying to stop me.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
There's
Exactly.
a
When you're
trained
going up against
professional trying to stop me from doing what I'm supposed to do.
right, you're going up against a Pro Bowl cornerback. I mean,
That's
but
funny.
it always helps when you have a great quarterback slinging it to you. And you got to play with a pretty good quarterback when you were in Baltimore, and Joe Flacco. I know he was hurt for part of one of your seasons, and you were hurt for part of the other, but you still got to play with him for a little bit, and he's still slinging it, which is crazy. You know, he had a crazy story last year coming in for the Browns. I mean, that was just an awesome story. He's played a little bit this year. Talk a little bit about him and playing with him. I mean, just a great quarterback all around.
Man, I'll tell you what I first thought when I seen Flacco, and it's like that first day of like catching passes from him. I'm like, oh, okay, this is what an NFL quarterback looks like. Like, okay, it's a
Yeah.
difference because like I went to a small school and high school, we had an athletic quarterback. So like to see like a 6'5", 230, 40 pound dude who can literally throw the ball 85, maybe 90 yards, like just throw the ball straight up in the air and just landing right over your shoulder, like 60 yards down the field. I'm like, oh, okay, so there's nowhere on this field that he can't get that ball to me yet. And like that changes everything. But yeah, man, that I love playing with him. And he had like Joe Cool, man, like super cool, down to earth. Like he ain't a butthole. He ain't like he's not like the typical jock quarterback like you would think. Nah, man, Joe Cool. He gonna hang with the guys. He gonna chill at the cafeteria. He gonna make jokes. He gonna stand up for his guys. Like he real cool dude. I love playing with Joe.
Yeah. And
Everything he's doing now, he deserves.
yeah, he seems like that he gives off that presence in media and like as a fan watching him,
Yeah,
it's hard to know, right? Some guys put on an act for the media, right? They make it, but they're not honestly that nice. So
yeah,
it's it's good to hear that these guys are actually down to earth. They treat
yeah.
their teammates well, especially rookies, right? Like there's some guys you treat a young rookie wide receiver undrafted, you're arrogant, this quarterback. I was drafted in the first round, and who the heck are you? And you treat him like dirt. I mean, that's not cool either. Nobody wants that.
Nah, man. But yeah, he cool. Like you said, even when most guys can look at an undrafted guy and like, oh man, it's gonna be another batch of you guys every year. He could have just kind of pushed things to the side, but now he made his intention to like speak on things that I was doing in practice good. He'd speak to the media positive. He would come help me out. If I made a mistake, he'd correct it. Like he would never be complaining, like, oh man, get him out of there, get somebody up. Joe's a cool dude, man, great leader.
Yeah. Do you remember your first reception? You remember what game and like when it happened, your first NFL catch?
I really don't.
That's crazy. I
I
feel like that
don't.
like that'd stick out. Like, I don't know, maybe I mean I guess not.
Nah, man, I'm gonna tell you this, as a wideout, man, you catch so many passes,
Yeah.
they start to just overlap. Whereas like, man, I couldn't even tell you. It's so many routes, so many. Even now, man, even when I watch the game, like I watch sports and I watch football, and like sometimes when they'll show like the replay of a receiver and DB battling or running the route, my body will twitch or like I react to it, and I'm just like, man,
Yeah.
chill, we tired. But that's just we done ran so many reps and so many like
Yeah.
variations of reps. It's like they all overlap as far as when exactly this catch was. So yeah, that's funny. I don't remember it.
Yeah. No, that is funny. It's funny that you're sitting on the couch still going to
Yeah, man.
reach
It's
out,
my
diving off the
wife be
couch
trying.
almost.
Like my wife love it.
Oh man, yeah, I love that. So then throughout the rest of your career, you bounced around, the Bucks, the Jets, Chargers, the Bills, a lot of moving around. And I feel like that's another kind of part that the fans really don't get a concept of like how difficult that is, right? You're not stable. You're on a different team. Maybe you're here for a few months and you're somewhere else. And I mean, kind of what's that whole process like? I mean, it's got to be a lot of talk with your agent too, right? Like if you get waived and this team released you and now you're somewhere else. I mean, just all kinds of conversations and packing your suitcase and moving from one place to the other. And
Yeah, man. And it's is that's part of it. That's the business. That's the job. But it's that really opened my eyes again to like the business side of sports and how things work, and not to take it personal because like I know when I first left Baltimore, immediately I'm thinking, okay, well, if I get waived, then I get to pick where I want to go now. So okay, where should I go? It doesn't work like that. So if you get claimed, the other teams know you got cut. So now they're looking like, okay, yeah, we want this guy. Bring him over here. They claim your contract. And so most of those opportunities I was getting, my contract was getting picked up. So at least other teams wanted me. So I was thankful for that. They wanted me. Like other teams, like, hey, like, no, we're not even gonna let you go to free agency. We want you. Claim the contract. And so that kind of showed me like, okay, this is a business. I gotta understand how this thing goes. And like the backside of it, like you said, a lot of fans don't understand the moving and like I wasn't in a position to ever like just buy a home and be like, okay, I'll be here. Like man, from year to year, I didn't know if I was even gonna be on the team. So I would just rent an apartment and just make sure, okay, let me get the basic necessities. You know, I got a bed, a place to lay my head. I can hook my video game up. I'm good. So that's all I was doing. But when I had a baby, things kind of changed, and it's like, okay, I need some stability. I need to really look at this and like see what's my plan. Am I going to bring my wife and kid up, or am I going to leave them home? And so it's all of those things that they don't talk about, and you still have to go perform at like amongst the best of the best of the best. And you know, when I got cut from Baltimore, I think I got claimed within 24 hours. I didn't even have a chance to come back home. It was straight from Baltimore to Tampa. And my wife had to call movers, get everything packed up, have everybody come in, do everything, send the car, send everything down. And she had to catch a flight back home. So it's a lot going on, man. So it definitely takes a team. And like I always tell young athletes that I speak with is 90% of guys are going to experience what I experienced. So you might want to take heed to it because few percent is going to be the Justin Jeffersons and the Lamar Jacksons. And that's like 1%, 2% of guys. Majority of the league is going to be guys that's bouncing around, you know, not really having stability, not really knowing, need to save your money, need to protect your, you know, your future, need to make decisions that really put you in position to be around, you know, playing special teams. So yeah, man, you learn real fast. Like it's a business operation and how to be valuable in it and just how to have a team to handle the background stuff because playing through all of that, it can cause some mental it can cause some mental disturbance, I would say, anxiety and like, man, am I good enough? You start to fight those thoughts. So you really gotta like buckle down and you know just be confident in your craft.
Yeah. What I think what you said is key that people don't think about. It's like everyone sees the superstars, right? They see the guys in the league for 10 to 15 years with the big contracts and they're on the same team. But I mean, if you look at the average NFL career, it's not that long. Most guys aren't in the league for that long. Most guys are in the league for a few years, what like 3 to 6 years or something like that, if that, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's not. It's actually the rarity to be the guy that's in the league for 10 to 15 to 20 years. I mean, with injuries, I mean, staying healthy that long is one thing, and then the
Yeah.
whole business aspect. I mean, and I'm assuming once, right, like you mentioned, having a family. I mean, that plays into your thought process, on like I guess that leads into a question. Like, did that play into your thought process into your like deciding to retire? Like, I got a family now. Can we bounce around like this? Is that good for us? I mean, was that part of the process?
Yeah, man. I would say that played about, of course, I had the real bad concussion injury, but for me, I think I would say about 90% of my decision was kind of wrapped around like my family, like my wife and kid. My lady at the time wasn't married, but married now. And because for me, I was going home and I'm an NFL player. I'm making boatloads of money. Not even being a top guy, I'm making great money. I'm traveling the world. You know, I'm doing what I do for a living, doing what I love for a living. And then the best part is like I'm not even like not the best part, but I'm not the guy out there that we're counting on every Sunday. So most games, I'm doing my little role, getting paid some great money for it. So my body is healthy. I'm good. I ain't the guy getting banged up, tackled six, 7 times a game. So for me, man, I think when I was starting to come home, and my son, we didn't really have the best relationship because I was gone 6, 7 months out of the year. I was coming home and he really wouldn't recognize me at first, and he didn't really feel comfortable coming to me. And it was like, man, like I'm killing it, like as far as career, like I'm living it, living the dream. But on this side of it's like, man, my relationship with my son is kind of off. Like I'm not here, like I'm not present. There's no excuse for that. Like I'm not present, and I can't bring him up because, as you can see, Daddy might not be on the team next year. We might have to move somewhere else. So that took a toll on me and just made me really understand, like, okay, purpose. Like, what's the purpose of everything now? Just it really aligned me and my focus. So that really let me be confident in walking away, knowing that, man, I'm okay, 5 years in the NFL, I actually played, got some stats, you know what I mean? Did some things, played with some great players. I lived my dream, made some great money, put my retirement things in order. Like I really, okay, it's time. You got a son, you got to be a father. So it played
Yeah.
a lot to it.
And how was the transition for you? Like some guys really struggle with like once they stop playing, starting to work and like you got that hole in your life because you played football or whatever your sport is for so long. I mean, I've talked to a lot of guys who have a hard time adjusting. It takes years for them to like really feel comfortable living a regular life.
Yeah, man, and that's a big one. And for me, I'm thinking like, okay, yeah, I'm walking away from the NFL to be a father. I'm like, okay, this is gonna be great. I'm doing the right thing. Man, it still was hard. So you think so as I'm transitioning, I'm realizing like, okay, I don't have football. Like I can't go and catch my way and make money no more. Like, that's not my lifestyle no more. So what's next? And for me, it was like, okay, I like entrepreneurship. It's kind of similar. I get to compete. I get to really, be motivated, driven, accountable, disciplined. And then where I struggled was like missing the environment, the team, missing like practice, the locker room, that camaraderie, like being a part of that. It's almost like you kicked out of a club and it's like, dang, I don't get to see the guys no more. I don't get to talk to the guys no more. Like I miss like hanging out at my buddy house after practice, like a long practice. I'm hanging out at my boy's house. We talking about the season. Like I don't have access to that no more. So it was that. And then it was like, okay, like what else am I good at? Like I've literally focused my all on this, like for the last 26, 27 years. Like what else am I good at? You know what I mean? Like, and it's hard, man, because you really don't know. And so for me, I went through like a little phase where I was kind of struggling, but what I realized and started to pick up was, well, okay, what did I learn from my career? I'm coachable, so I can learn quick. I'm pretty self-disciplined. So if I figure out what I need to do, I can do it consistently. I love working in a team environment, so I can work well with other people. I can collaborate, and I started to realize like all of these different skills were like business skills. They were entrepreneurship skills, and I'm like, well, I learned these in sports, so let me learn how to use these sports skills in life. And that's when I really picked up momentum and like in business where I realized like, oh, everything that I use in sports, coachability, teamwork, leadership, mindset, like my maturity of like handling adversity and failing and fixing it, making a mistake and improving. I'm like, all of these things can make me a great business owner. So like, let me transition these skills here. And once I found that out, that bridge, it was off to the races for me and I was good. And since then, everything has been great. Just growing into, my own and what I do now, which is working with young athletes, working with youth organizations and just seeing like, okay, I got something here. So yeah, I'm good now, but it was rough. It was rough.
Yeah. I feel like it's tough for a lot of people. It doesn't matter what your level is, but if you can do what you did, if you can take the skills from your sport, whether you're going from high school to now I'm just going to college, I'm not playing a sport, or whether you're a college athlete and now you're starting or a pro, like whatever stage you're transitioning out of, like you said, you've got all these skills that you learned that are going to translate. I mean, it wasn't all for nothing. If you play high school sports, and then you just start working or you go to college, like you take all that teamwork and all that, everything and use that in your college. And, if you play D3 football and then, you're done, you get a job. I mean, use everything you learned. Like you said, I mean, I feel like some athletes kind of look at it like, well, now that's over. I don't need that anymore. It's like,
Yeah.
well, now you can take that and you can put it in and use it as like a piece in your puzzle and help it to build your new whatever you're going to do with the rest of your life.
Yeah. And the best thing athletes can do, man, is 'cause when I look back at my career, like, yes, I was super like laser focused on my career. But when I think about it, it's like there was a lot of time, even in video game time. Like there was a lot of time where I had the time and the resources and the platform to really connect to other opportunities and to like I could have been starting my business and investing while I was in the league, you know what I mean? Or in college, I could have learned about these concepts. So I would have had a head start. But like most guys wait until they're done playing the sport. And the sport, like it usually is done with you a lot sooner than you want to be done with it. So most guys never really had that plan, and it's scary to be kind of kicked out of the club, and now you got to figure it out. So, like you mentioned, though, it's at any level of sports, you have skills and you have, you have traits and like principles that civilians and like I always say, like society doesn't really have that self-discipline, that accountability, or that teamwork mindset. Those things will make you valuable anywhere.
Right? Time management, learning to do
Oh
all your
yeah.
college homework with practice. I mean, there's so much stuff that you got to figure out. I think that's great advice that guy people don't think about, like planning ahead. Like, what are you going to do after your sport's done? Even if you have that great 15-year career, like you're still only going to be 45. Like, what are you going to do with the rest of
Out of
your life?
time.
You got to do something. So
Yeah.
yeah, planning ahead, that's great advice. Why don't we end the episode? Are you a big music or movie guy? Like one or the other? You really big into either?
I'm a big movie guy.
Okay. What kind of movies? Like, what's your go-to genre?
Action, comedy action. I like some of the animated movies. I like some good Kung Fu Panda got me in the chokehold. So
Yeah.
like those kind of movies. I love mob movies. So any like Goodfellas, um,
Okay.
Punk's Tale. Like I love mob movies.
Yeah. Those are a lot of those are on my list of movies that I've got. Scarface and
Yeah,
Godfather. Like, I got to see some of those. I've never seen them. I know they're movies that like everybody's got to see at least once.
you got to.
Goodfellas, like you
You got
said, got to cross them off the list. Kung Fu Panda, though, that's funny.
to.
I would not have guessed that.
The animated movies, I love them, man. I watched all four of the Kung Fu Pandas. I love them. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, I like a good animated movie once in a while. I mean, I don't know, you kind of feel like a kid again. You're like sitting there, just simple movie. It's like pretty innocent and you just feel good watching them. Like, you don't have to,
Yeah.
like some of those action movies, you get stressed watching it. You're like you're scared for that guy's life because you know what he's about to walk around the corner to or whatever. Like, I
Yeah,
mean,
man. He got a sniper on his head, a red dot. You
yeah.
know it. Action movies
Yeah.
tough, man. They tough.
It is,
They
right? Yeah, it's almost like
true.
a workout to watch that.
Yeah. I
All
love me
right,
some
well,
movies, man.
yeah, yeah. I'm a big movie guy too. I feel like I talk about movies with my friends and I'm like, "Hey, have you ever seen this?" "No." "Have you ever seen this?" "No." They're like, "What do you watch a lot of movies?" "Yeah, I like movies. If it's raining out, I'm gonna watch a movie." I mean,
Oh yeah, I got to. If it's man, I love when it's raining or when it's one of those good long hot days and I don't got nothing to do in the evening. I'm going to throw me
yeah.
and sit back, eat some
Yeah.
a good
Yeah.
movie, man. That's how I love kicking my time. Good movies and fishing.
Yeah. Oh, fishing? Like what kind of fishing?
Bass fishing. Down in Florida, we got a lot of saltwater fishing like snapper and grouper, but yeah, I've been bass fishing lately.
Yeah, well, that's fun. There's a lot of people that get into bass fishing, like bass tournaments and all kinds of stuff. I mean, like it's definitely a challenge. They put up a good fight.
Oh yeah, yeah. I
It's a
love it.
workout.
Yeah, it's like keep your forearms right, man.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Exactly. I love it. Well, Jeremy, I appreciate you hopping on the podcast. Had a good time. Really, really, yeah, really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me on, man. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. If you ever need me back on again, man, I would love to.
Thanks for listening. Please stay tuned for more episodes soon.